Blue Thunder,
Oh, yeah.
and Time After
Cat
Time,
People.
and Cat People, exactly, all those movies. And of
Yeah.
course, I had seen A Clockwork Orange when I was allowed to get around to it.
My 10-year-old is so bummed out that I wouldn't bring him. I went, 10?
Has he seen it? No.
He's seen the opening.
How old?
Bits.
How old can he be when he?
Well, some kids see it when they're his age.
Sure.
But I don't really want him to. I don't know. I think I'll wait till he's 16 at least. I mean, my daughter didn't see it until she went to college. And she called me and said, Dad, there's a lot of pictures of you on posters in the dormitories. I said, yeah, that's right, it probably is. And she said, well, I've never seen this film. I said, well, it's time to catch up. I don't force-fed my kids watching my work,
So it actually, organically, they get around to seeing them.
Yes, I let them decide when they want to see it.
Sure.
Because I really am just a dad, and when they want to see what I do, well, they know that I do cartoons, because I just do that for the kids.
Yeah.
So I do a massive voiceovers for them, because they love it when they hear my voice. Or if I do a commercial for Sprint with James Earl Jones, they're like, oh, this is the best one. They all take their vote on that. And then they'll quote it for a couple of weeks,
Is there any warning, though, for,
No.
stay away from Caligula or something like that?
No. Although
I've never thought of it from that
my
point of view.
My oldest son, when he was 12, came to me and he went, Dad, we went to Blockbuster. I went, oh, yeah, from my friends. And, we always go to the X-ray. I went, oh, yeah, the porno. He goes, you're in the porno section. I went, yep, and I'm proud of it.
There you go.
He went, all my friends are so jealous.
Do you stand by that? Where are we going, by the way?
We're good to go.
Well, we'll kind of finish up out of here. But I mean, I saw an interview from 20 years ago where you were talking to Conan O'Brien, and you were talking about how you still were sort of arm's length with that film, but Gielgud, of course, raved about it. Did that sort of change your perspective?
No, it didn't change mine. But John, of course.
Yeah.
Like anything with a bit of nudity. I mean, he was such a spectacular man. And of course, a very great actor. I think probably the greatest actor I've ever seen. Maybe not the greatest performance I've ever seen, but certainly, I think over a career, he's the one that you say, oh my God, John Gielgud is the finest actor, to work with him was such a treat, even though it was in Caligula, which is such a mishmash. There's some wonderful stuff in it and some absolute garbage. And so you have to be a bit discerning. Guccione, who is the publisher of Penthouse, porno magazine, the Larry Flint of his day.
Sure.
And he paid for it, so he could do whatever he wanted with it. As Gore Vidal, who wrote it, said, when I asked him, who was going to finance the film, he said, well, Bob Guccione, and he said, just think of him as one of the Warner Brothers.
Famous last words.
I don't think so. No, Gore. Well, Gore took his name off.
Right.
And he had huge rows with the director, so that was the end of that. And I remember calling him up and saying, Gore, you've taken your name off, but you're the one who cast me, and you've landed me in this movie, and now you've gone, you've collected your check, and I'm still here for another 8 months. But I don't regret it, because there's some wonderful things in it, and working with Helen Mirren, and who was a friend, and always a great support, and we had fun. I mean, it can't be too bad working in Rome for a year,
I would think any film that gets I would think any film that we're running with both cameras, right? So
Yep.
I would think any film that gets people talking, whether it's positive or negative, is worthwhile of your time.
Well, you do hope it's the positive, not the negative. But for instance, the year that I made Caligula, or the year that it came out, I also had another movie come out called Time After Time. And so I was in one of the 10 best and one of the 10 worst films of the year. And I just thought, well, that's the way a career really should go. Because unless you are prepared to fail big time, then you really shouldn't be an actor, because you have to get out there and walk the plank and try something that maybe is a little risque, you know. And let's face it, I've made a few of those. But
Well, you're very well known, obviously, for taking risks in movies. But I would have to say, with these polar opposites coming out the same year, was taking on Time After Time and playing H.G. Wells and a character with a heart of gold. Was that brand new for you after being
no, of course not.
typecast?
Because, no, I mean, listen, I'm just known for you know, Clockwork Orange and Caligula and things like that, but that's not who I am.
Sure.
And you know, if I'm playing a rebel who, of course, there's this explosion at the end of the film, but he is a pure and very beautiful, sensitive man. You know, he's a pure revolutionary, actually. But himself, he's a sensitive and very caring person. And of course, you know, once you start your career in films and have a huge hit, which is sort of global, then you're never really allowed to play anything else. They don't want anything else, and so, you know, it's either you take Caligula, you know, or you don't work. It's as simple as that. And in the end, you have to pay the mortgage, you know. So in the end, and I'm a working actor, and always have been, and always wanted. That's one thing that I loved about Gielgud, is that, and here's a man who took enormous risks. You know, he did this movie called Providence, when he was I think 80 almost, or 84, I think he was, and he's naked in most of it. I mean, but it's such a pure and beautiful performance, you know. And so I always looked up to the Knights. I say the Knights: Gielgud Richardson, Ralph Richardson, and Laurence Olivier, who have these long, extraordinary careers that covered every medium, you know, stage, radio, film, television, everything, radio, of course. But so I wanted to emulate that. I didn't want to be a quick flash in the pan. But, you know, listen, often it's not in your hands.
Did you have to fight for the role of H.G. Wells for Time After Time?
Strangely enough, no. And it's all credit to Nicholas Meyer, who cast me, because he could have easily cast me in the to play Jack the Ripper.
Sure.
And actually, he cast the very best person to play that role in David Warner, who was absolutely brilliant, and nobody could have been better than him. So, and I was so thrilled to come away from the mayhem of the Caligula set and read this beautiful script, and to be playing this charming H.G. Wells, who was one of the first socialists, and he was you know, a great supporter of women's rights and everything, you know, and he's a wonderful philosopher, writer, you know, everything. He was a Renaissance man. And wrote, of course, this great book, The Time Machine, amongst other great books. And so I thought that before coming to Hollywood to do this part, I thought I'd better call the BBC and see if they had any archival footage that I could look at or listen to. And they sent me a gramophone record of a recording of H.G. Wells from 1928 or something.
Oh, wow.
From the radio. And it was rather creaky and, you know, but he talked like that. He had a Southeast London accent, and he had a very high-pitched voice. So I immediately went, I don't think they're going to buy that, no. So that was the end of my research into H.G. Wells. So I just played him for what it was, you know.
Right.
It's actually not, it's not a thriller about Jack the Ripper. It is actually a love story, and between H.G. and the Mary Steenburgen character,
Right.
And that's really what it is. He comes forward from the Edwardian England to modern day San Francisco and meets the modern woman, the one he's been espousing all his life, and suddenly he's faced with it, and it terrifies him. And it's a beautiful dichotomy.
It's fun to watch at this day and age, going back, because it really is. Women's lib is very strong and in the forefront, and her character is very much what Hollywood believed women's lib kind of is. And obviously it's progressive, but it seems dated today. How do you feel
Totally.
about that?
Well, from that point of view. But I saw it not too long ago. Actually, they showed it, and I hadn't seen it in years. And I thought it really did hold up pretty well. And I was really quite pleased, actually.
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite films, and I love time travel films. And
Yeah.
I love the heart of it. And Nicholas Meyer is also one of my favorite directors because,
Yeah.
you know, I love Star Trek: Wrath of Khan. How was working
right.
with Nicholas, and how
Well, he was a very man of very firm opinions, and but extremely, you know, he was very young. This was I think his first directorial film, and, although he'd written 7% Solution.
right.
And, you know, he was very well informed and extremely well prepared. And, you know, we had this extraordinary city, San Francisco, to shoot the movie in. And that was such a delight for me to go to this great city and to spend a bit of time there. It was truly a magical time. And then to come back to the back lot in Hollywood where Jimmy Cagney, you know, Warner Brothers, where Jimmy Cagney had done all these great gangster movies. And I remember showing Mary the street, and then I said, this is the street they did Singing in the Rain. I'm like doing Gene Kelly, and I grabbed hold of the lamppost, and the thing fell right over. It wasn't attached.
This movie is a love story, as you say, and you found there's real chemistry between you and Mary, and you find real life love on the set. Did that surprise you?
It did. It threw me for a loop. I wasn't expecting it, wasn't looking for it. One of those things that happened. And I always say this is one of my favorite movies because I got two wonderful children as a gift from this movie. So Charlie and Lily were our children from that union, and so I'm very proud of both of them.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'll switch gears because I don't know how much time we have, so we'll talk about Clockwork now.
Yeah.
Now, it's been more than 40 years since Clockwork has come up.
Yeah.
Hard to believe, I'm sure, but it still has tremendous influence and impact. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's an amazing piece, and it's pretty timeless. It's amazing this place is sold out. It's 1,200 seats. I mean, after 43 years.
I saw audience members outside dressed like droogs.
Oh boy, it's going to be one of those nights. Well, that's, you know, listen, it's great. First off, Anthony Burgess, who never gets any credit, wrote this incredible masterpiece of a novel. And of course, when Kubrick read it, he recognized what a piece of genius writing it was. And so we start off with one of the great novels of that period, and his look into the future. And it's weird, it doesn't really date the film, even though it's looking into the future. It's become about something else. Then, you know, when we opened the movie, it was a scandal because it was so violent. I don't know where they get the violence from. It is psychologically, of course, disturbing. There's no question about that. But what really I think the kids hook onto today, it's they don't care about that. They see that on television every night. What they really love is the actual political content of the establishment, the mind games, and the way that they have encompassed and taken away all freedoms. And I think that even though you can't really put it in a succinct sentence, that's the kind of thing that they sort of rally to. And it is this thing of, you know, what is Clockwork Orange really about? Well, you know, it's all these things, but the basic one line, one sentence, it's about freedom of man to choose. That's it. Now, you know, I think it's the first time, though, in a mainstream movie where the hero or anti-hero was an immoral man. And I honestly, I was trying to think today, because it's come up again, of another film before that time, and I can't. So that's why.
I have to point this out because I'm distracted by.
Oh my God. Well, there you are, you see.
Adequately distracted. That's perfect timing.
It's the Droogs.
Yes.
They're here to beat me up. Yeah, so, Well, that's basically what it's about. And
It's I think of the many reasons it's way ahead of its time. It depicts a despicable character that you completely fall in love with, and I think very few characters before then had been so mesmerizing. And the way you played it and the way you pulled it off was beyond.
it was always a very fine balancing act, you know. And I wasn't really ever sure whether I'd done it, you know. To be true to this psychopath, really. I mean, he is a sort of psychopath, whether you like it or not. He's an immoral man. He's a murderer and a rapist. So however you cut it, that's the bottom line. But there is a redemption. And so I chose to play him as a man. I didn't want to be sympathetic to the audience, and there's no way I could, and that would be cheating. So I just played him with a love of life. And that's what people, I think, respond to.
We're doing okay?
We have to wrap now, unfortunately.
Okay.
Okay, if I can, one more question or two.
Yes.
Stanley Kubrick decided, based on the pressure and copycat crimes, Stanley Kubrick decided to pull the film from distribution in England. Do you agree with that? Do you think that was the right choice?
Look, it's Stanley's choice, and frankly, you know, I would back him, whatever he decided to do. If he felt that his life of his family were threatened, I think he has every right to do that. So I would back him totally, and that's what the police advised him, and that's what he decided to do. But it was only in England, and let me just tell you, it wasn't until the movie had played for a year. So it wasn't like there was a great financial hardship and that they were pulling a movie that was a huge hit. It had played in the same cinema in Leicester Square for 1 year. So it had played itself out.
Sure.
And actually it turned out to be a very shrewd commercial decision, because, you know, it got a whole myth thing going about it. People were taking plane trips to Paris, just Clockwork Orange plane trips, to get the videos and bringing them back, and they were terrible. And, you know, after all the care that Kubrick had spent in the lighting and setting up the shots, and then people were seeing it on a horrible, scratchy old video, you know. That's the irony there. But no, I would back him. But you can get it. You can go see it now.
Yeah, exactly. The Ludovico technique.
Yeah.
Was that a one-take deal? How
10 minutes.
How much torture was that for you?
10 minutes. I didn't feel it at the time. My eyes were anesthetized. In the car going home, I don't know whether you've ever scratched your corneas. You don't want to do it. I don't think I've ever experienced pain like that before or since. It was horrible, like being cut with razor blades. Yeah, and it was horrible.
Your own Un Chien Andalou. And lastly, it's a very quotable film. Do you have a favorite line, and would you indulge me with your favorite line?
I was cured, all right. That's a pretty good line.
That's a very good line. Wonderful. Well, they're waiting for us, so I'd love to take a real quick solo photograph.
Yeah.
And then the two of us.
Got it. Got it.
I really appreciate the time, too.
Yeah.
David, you want to swing your chair around?
Yeah, I'll do